Mark, it's Halloween. We're recording MTM Travel. I'm getting on a Redeye on Frontier with no extra legroom tonight. I have been depressed all day.
Oh, that's my tiniest violin playing for you about the no extra leg room. I mean, what's Frontier status worth if you don't get extra leg room? Now you're just flying crappy airline for no reason. No, just kidding. But you love your red eyes into and out of Orlando for some reason. You just can't get enough of them.
Stupid Halloween. My daughter wants to trick or treat with her friends. What can I do? We had this, so we're going to fly the Redeye. And I could move myself to an exit row, but she can't go to the exit row. And I got overruled saying that I'm not allowed to split off from the party. So it's not going to be
Oh,
fun.
I think if it's just the three of you, having a child, it's kind of like getting extra room. Like whenever my daughter sits next to me, you get a little bit like a quarter of an extra seat. So I think it's kind of the same. Like I don't mind flying in three to a row. Like when we flew to Orlando on Spirit, we put my son in the aisle across the aisle from me, and then my daughter in the middle, and my wife on the side, so that we all had plenty of space, and it just works out better that way. Even if I'm sitting next to my son, he's taller, but pretty thin. So it's always nice to have that extra space when you're flying with kids.
For sure, but 29-inch seat pitch. I'm 6'2". Just doesn't work so well with my legs. Like I can't even sit forward in those seats. My legs are in there, and it'll be fine. 4.5 hours.
At least
There's
they
no
can't
place
recline
like
into
home.
you. So
Yeah, well,
you
yeah,
got
there you
that.
go. Pre-reclined seats. So there's the upside, but it works good. And then we'll be at Universal, and so we are taking a show off from 20 Minute Travel and from MTM Vegas. This show will still be out next week as we do it. But yeah, that's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it and kind of disconnecting a little bit. I haven't done that in a while. When I'm traveling, I'm always editing or working or recording, and this time I'm sure some work will pop up, but no recording, no editing. I'm not bringing my microphone or my gear. Let's hope I don't get stuck.
Yeah, traveling with the camera and all that stuff is such a pain in the butt. I hate it. So I'm glad that you're taking the time off. And I have a question for you. Since it's Halloween, we finally convinced my son to do it. The last couple years, I think, basically sent like, you know what? I'm done with Halloween. I'm too old, or I'm too manly. You didn't laugh at
Did
the
you
balls
really just
dropping, girl.
describe it like that? Did you really just? There's so many
once
ways you could have
once
described
once
that.
the hair started to grow. I don't know if you want me to say it that way, but yeah, like once we hit puberty, or my as my daughter calls it, puberty. He was like, "Oh, I'm too cool for that," or whatever. And so the last, I think, year, maybe 2 years, he hasn't really gone out and done it. Just kind of hung. So I hung back with him. My wife's big into it. My daughter's into it, but she was kind of like pleading with him, like, "Come on, you got to do it." So he's gonna go out this year, but I feel like I went until eighth grade, maybe freshman year of high school is when it kind of wrapped up there. But it was cool. Like in eighth grade, it was fun again because you could go out by yourself with your friends and everything. You didn't need the parents with you, and so it was kind of like brand new all over again. I don't know. When did your son stop doing it?
Probably around that time. I mean, he would go out with his friends when he was in middle school for sure. I remember doing it in seventh, eighth grade with friends going around. I just saw a tweet saying, if you see a 15-year-old knocking on your door trick or treating, they're dealing with the most like, the hardest time of their life. And they're trying to like relive the nostalgia of their childhood as they realize that they have to go to adulthood or something. So be kind to them. I thought that was interesting because it is true. You're kind of in that period where life is already short at that period of time. You don't have a lot of perspective, but those nostalgic days of being a kid trick or treating are behind you, and yet you're still trying to grasp on to that. So it is fascinating. I say do it as long as you can. Like anytime you can do one of these kid friendly things, even if you're an adult and you can get away with it, and just bring that inner kid in outside, then I think you should do it.
Yeah, and I mean, at that age, they missed out maybe of their prime time years of doing it because of COVID. One year they couldn't go out trick or treating, and same for my kids. Like that was probably the last year that they both would have been really super excited about it. They were like 6 and 8, so it's kind of like, all right, they're getting real pumped up for this. So we did a little thing where like they trick or treated around the house and knocked on the different bedroom doors and everything, but it was sad, and they kind of missed out on that. And I wonder, like down the line, how much all of that kind of like does it affect them? Kids are pretty resilient, so probably not. But I think there's some in there. Maybe the 15-year-olds kind of felt it more, and they're struggling with it, so they're looking to find some of that youth, the year that they missed out on. It definitely sucks. I mean, we were in our 30s. That was like the last decade of where your body didn't break down. So I feel like we got screwed too.
let's You talk about your little violin, Jesus, for that. I think it's the cutest thing. No, it is sad them knocking on doors for Halloween candy and stuff like, bedroom doors for that. But, it's recovered and they're making the best of it. And I'm, expecting it to be good. It's not the same. We've talked about this. I think everybody for the last while, we all grew up a certain way. Halloween was kind of like, I don't know, everywhere. Everybody went door to door. It doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. We raised our kids differently. We don't quite know why that happened. But when you're traveling, it can also be fun. I've done Halloween on the road a few years. We did Hawaii once with my daughter when she was a baby and my son. And I remember the Grand Hyatt Kauai, they passed out candy. I've also been in LA and I think back east one year. And so that's kind of cool too, because you get into your own routines. And one thing we do, and I don't know about you, but we always do something different. So one year we're with one group of family members, one year we're with the other. Sometimes we're in our neighborhood, so we do switch it up. Sometimes we're traveling, but that can be really cool to kind of experience the holiday in a different way. If you do travel, if you do sort of get out of the perspective, I get it. Like my daughter wants to trick or treat with her friends this year, or else we'd be in Orlando and I wouldn't be flying a Redeye. So it's not always possible, especially as they get older.
You know what ruined it all is that stupid trunk or treat crap. Like, I don't get it. I hate it. It's so dumb. I get it that it's convenient. Everybody's right there and you can do it quickly. But come on. Like, what's the problem here? And we notice that when we walk around, I mean, certain neighborhoods, it's still like parades of kids. It's usually like the wealthier areas that the houses are close together and they hand out the full size candy bars. Those still get big traction. But if you go, to other areas, like most of the houses have their lights off or whatever. So it's just not as, I don't know, it just felt more like a celebration back in the day. And the other thing I miss is, what happened to Devil's Night? I don't see any houses TP'd at all. I remember, growing up, there was TP on like every third house or something. Like there's just toilet paper raining everywhere. Probably better that we don't have that floating everywhere, but it was kind of added fun to it and something unique you did. And I just don't feel like anybody does that anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably not a bad thing that we don't have people going around TPing houses. Maybe because it's so common for people not to hand out candy anymore. Like you would be egging and TPing everybody's house because, like in my neighborhood, there's a lot of people who do hand out candy, but at least half the houses don't, and they're dark and whatever. And we have one of the better probably trick or treating experiences here. So yeah, it's all cool. I do have a family member who lives in a country club, and the houses are big houses. And so in order to trick or treat there, you get great candy, but you have to drive around on a golf cart in between the houses. So it's not just us either. It's like everybody. Seriously, this is the most pinkies up experience because everybody there has their golf cart. So you just have roving golf carts of rich people trick-or-treating, but it's great. And one of the guys that lives in that neighborhood owns one of the big Halloween decoration companies in town. So he does his house with like every crazy decoration you can find. So like a full-on haunt and, full-size candy. It is cool to go to some of the nicer neighborhoods, but I actually like trick-or-treating where I live, which is still a nice neighborhood. Just no golf carts.
Yeah, I've always wanted to fall like on a Friday or Saturday so we could go to the cottage and have the kids do it up there for a different experience. But half of those up there are seasonal homes. They're not open all year round. They're like winterized and everything. So I don't know that it would be great, but it's still, I feel bad for our neighbors that are around there. Like nobody ever comes around. We get maybe like 2 or 3 trick-or-treaters each year, and it's kind of sad. So I don't know, maybe, I guess next year, because isn't it like always the day later? So it should be Friday. So maybe we can make it work next year. Maybe my daughter will do it. Maybe we can get my son to do it because it'll be something new. There's the thing right there.
So one thing that's changed Halloween related, and then we'll move on in Nevada, is Nevada joined the United States on October 31st. So that's always been Nevada Day. So when I grew up, no matter what day of the week October 31st was, you got the day off. So it was cool because you didn't have to go to school on Halloween. You could get ready all day. If it was a Wednesday, it didn't matter. And a few years ago, they changed it to be a Monday or a Friday, either before or after. So the kids today don't get Halloween off, but that was always kind of cool to have it off from school to enjoy it and to get all crazy and stuff like that. But it is neat when it happens on a weekend, especially for travel. And yeah, now that I'm thinking it's going to be Friday next year, maybe we should travel again. But good times, man. I love Halloween. Such a great thing. And we're getting into the spirit, getting into that time of year. I want to hop on a plane, go see some Christmas markets or something.
Yeah, Christmas markets. Oh, great. But we're actually going to go to Chicago because I think those are the best ones in the U.S. But before we jump into like that, it just reminded me when we moved to northern Michigan, they had, how you had Halloween off, and we never got that here. But when we moved to northern Michigan for opening day of hunting season, there was no school. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They're like, oh, yeah, we don't have school tomorrow because it's opening day. So many kids don't show up that we just make it a day off of school. And I was like, it was so bizarre to me coming from the Detroit area. It didn't make any sense. I was like, okay, so it's just funny how you can be in the same state in different areas, have different, things, different days off and everything. But no, we're in December. We're heading over to Chicago. Heard from our my buddy Dave that they have a really great Christmas market set up there, and I looked at pictures, looked at some of the vendors. It seems like they come over from Europe, and it looks a lot the same as what we did on our trip a couple years ago that we talked about on this podcast. And my wife really loved that, so I'm like, hey, maybe we can do it, and just drive there instead of flying overseas and everything.
Yeah, I didn't know that Chicago had Christmas markets, so that's a good tip. And especially for people who want to experience it. I have still never done the Christmas markets in Europe. I have done the Easter markets, which are similar but not the same, and not going to claim that, but at least it was a taste of it to want to know that I do want to go back. And I know you've loved it. And I think that in the travel space, the Christmas markets are very much on people's radar. You talk to a lot of people and they do that. But if you get beyond it to more casual people and you talk about these things, Christmas markets, even Easter markets, people don't know about them. And this is a grand celebration of culture that, as far as I know, at least from my experience with the Easter markets, people should experience. And I do plan to do Christmas markets at some point.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe we can pull it off next year. Maybe like Thanksgiving. A lot of people like to travel to Europe during the Thanksgiving holiday because, of course, it's a U.S. holiday, American holiday, so it's not celebrated there. So it's just business as usual. The Christmas markets is usually already kicked off, so you get maybe an extra, maybe your work gives you Thursday and Friday off, so you don't have to take vacation days. Some, at least, you don't have to take Thursday off, and you can travel. Flights are a bit cheaper, a bit easier to get hotels because a lot of people are spending time with their families. So I was shooting, maybe doing that, and maybe do like London and then head over to Paris for a couple of nights type of thing. I think London has pretty solid Christmas markets. Talking to a friend who lived there for a few years, and it's a bit more mild there in the winter too. They don't get like heavy snowfall or anything. If you watch Ted Lasso, you know that.
Talk about pinkies up. A few days in London, a few days in Paris.
Okay.
Pinkies up, my friend. Fancy, fancy, fancy. But yeah, it's neat. And discovering that culture, it's not just like markets and stuff. It's really like this whole festival. Everybody buys into it. I think the cold weather probably adds a lot to the atmosphere of it all. And, like I said, I've been to quite a few of the Easter markets. And what was cool about the year I was there in Eastern Europe doing these Easter markets was it was April, but they had like this crazy snowstorm. So it was, in the 30s and covered in snow everywhere. So I almost got like the winter experience, even though in fact, every local, I remember being in Poland and everybody just crying about the snow. Like they were complaining so hard. They're like, there should not be snow in April. This is our time to like come out. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just like a little snow. It was feet of snow. Yeah. That was one of my favorite memories was watching Polish people complain about the snow.
Yeah, it definitely bring if you're doing them this year, bring warm shoes. I just wore tennis shoes and was like, oh, I'll layer up socks or whatever. And in Salzburg, my feet went numb. Even a bit like in Munich, it was rainy and cold, and then in Frankfurt was the worst. It was just like frost. It was just walking around with chunks of ice on my feet. So I would say like bring boots are tough because they take up so much space. There's some like North Face thermal ball, I think they're called. They're like these little slipper booty type things. I don't know, that sounded dirty, but they're like these little like slippers that are lined inside. They're so warm, waterproof, and then they have like that I don't know, like fake animal fur type of thing inside. Keeps your feet really warm. I think those are like ideal. They don't take up a ton of space. They fold down. They're not big up the leg boots or anything. I mean, you'll look like you're walking around in house shoes, slippers, so you look kind of stupid, but who cares? Your feet will be warm.
That's a tough thing with travel. I think for people who are not from cold climates is I can go somewhere that's cold for a few days and be fine. I layer up, I deal with it. But talking about that trip in Eastern Europe where they had that cold front, it was just a month straight of snow, feet of snow everywhere and just sub-zero temperatures and just cold. And I just remember my bones rattled and I was just so uncomfortable. Like I was not made for this type of weather for extended periods of time. It can be hard for people who come from like somewhere like me where we're not in winter clothes constantly all the time. It does get cold here, but doesn't get freezing. And, I found that especially if you're traveling too, and then sometimes you might go to a warmer place. So like when I've been backpacking or on longer term trips, I have different, like I'll have one sweater, I'll have long sleeve shirts, and I just sort of layer myself up. So where, on the coldest days, I might have 4 layers on. and none of those are particularly thick or whatever, but they fit really well. I can wear them in other circumstances, and when you put them all together, then it becomes sort of a winter defense. And so that's how I've done that, where I've, a lot of people are carry on only, and that becomes difficult. Like you say with the boots, I don't want to bring a giant bag. And so I would rather just maybe look a little weird and have 4 layers of clothing on if I need it.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did. Like I brought a fleece jacket. I didn't bring a full winter coat, so I like had a sweater or sweatshirt and then a fleece jacket over there. And then, I did bring, it was like a thinner, puffy jacket, not like a full blown winter coat. So kind of layered there. And then our luggage was on the plane. We got, delayed in Frankfurt, couldn't get the coat, so we had to do the extra night in Frankfurt. I had to do with just the fleece, which was pretty warm, but it wasn't, all the way. So I was just like, it was bad all around. And the funny thing was, the best food and everything that we had was probably at the Frankfurt market. So even though Frankfurt gets, it's kind of boring, it's kind of bland, it's a banking in, finance type place. A lot of people don't want to go there, but it's easy to get to from Detroit, especially with the Lufthansa flight for the auto industry every day, and usually good award availability. They actually, if you live in the Midwest, it's an easy flight in. You could probably do a long weekend there and hit those Christmas markets, and they're really, really solid ones.
Best airport in Europe too.
Oh, the worst. So bad. I hate
But
it.
yeah, it is. It is neat. And traveling this time of year, and maybe going to Christmas markets will be touristy, but generally traveling when it's colder in Europe in the off season is a great time because there's less people. And I would rather be freezing in Europe with less people than dying in the heat of the summer of Europe with a million people. You couldn't really pay me to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, it really gets bad. So, I think thinking outside the box with European trips or with these types of things, kind of honing in on one thing like the Christmas markets, which, like you said, was a whole meaning of your trip a few years ago. This can be really neat, and I'm excited. The other thing about this time of year, Mark, and I wanted to ask you, we didn't talk about this before. We're going into the fourth quarter. There's a lot of earning opportunities. You've said on a previous show how you sort of treat, this is a second job and you're earning things to pay off things like that. What are you doing right now to prepare for, Black Friday, fourth quarter? You're not a reseller. You're not doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So I like your perspective because I feel like you're a lot more normal than I am.
I don't really, it doesn't change from quarter to quarter. I kind of stay on the same path. I mean, back when I was into gift card reselling, fourth quarter was always a big thing because there was a lot of deals going on. And, 4, 5, 6 years ago, there was a ton of deals going, like Black Friday deals. I mean, the Target 10% deal, they still have that, but that was a big one where they sold their gift cards for 10% off. I mean, the resale market was just better because there wasn't as many people in it. It just seems like it's dried up a bit. Best Buy was a big thing where you could get like 99 cents on the dollar selling Best Buy cards. It was a crazy time. And then you were rolling it with fuel points or store programs, Meyer, M Perks type of things. And it just isn't really there. I don't do that much anymore. I just kind of stick to the tried and true stuff that I do year round. So funny enough, it doesn't really change for me. It looks less sketchy, I guess, in the fourth quarter because everybody's buying, Visa gift cards or whatever it be for gifts and stuff. So people look at you a little bit less, but I've been going to the same places for so long that they kind of know who I am, what I'm doing, all that stuff. I don't really bat an eye. So nothing changes for me much. I know fourth quarter is always big for buying groups and stuff, or reselling like you do. But it seems like buying groups has even been a little bit tough the last year or so. So I don't know if that's going to be a great option either.
Yeah, I think with anything, any play in this hobby, and I mean buyers groups, all this stuff is really a business. So approach that how you will because it is a business. Make sure you're not losing money. Make sure you're accounting for the time you're spending doing anything. But one thing about this time of year is you do see more deals on gift cards and stuff. So there are maybe more opportunities that way. Like you say with buyers groups, the gift card buyers groups, there's more competition. There's less deals where you're profitable, especially compared to a couple years ago. I did it by myself, on my own for years and years and years and was able to do better. And I don't think that's possible anymore. So there's a lot of, differences, but I think just being open to the opportunities for newer people, the buyers groups, I think just give it a try. A huge amount of caution here. We've talked ad nauseum. There's so many episodes of this podcast talking about pitfalls of these things and what you need to be aware of, and making sure you're accounting for your money and being able to float it. And at some point, you're just turning over merchandise to somebody and hoping that they're going to pay you. Being aware of all of that. But if
Crazy.
you are into that, and you want to dip your toes, this is the time to do it because this will be the best opportunities of the year, even if they're not as good as they used to be.
I mean, I remember when we first started chatting with each other and stuff, or when I first found Miles to Memories and it was in the Facebook group and everything like that. It was like I was selling to ABC gift cards where you had to mail them in, like card cash and stuff. You had to mail in physical gift cards, and they would mail you a check, and then they allowed you to upload them online, and it was like, oh, this is so much better. But a lot of it was like they used to have great deals on just like eBay where they'd sell, let's say, a Speedway or a BP gift card for 10% off, and you'd have that shipped to you, and then you'd mail it in, and then they'd send you a check, and maybe you'd lose like 1%, but you were earning, 10% in eBay bucks or 5% or whatever the deal was going at that time. You earned portal rewards, and then you earned credit card points. It was like the heyday of gift card reselling. And you think about that, how easy it was. And now it's like you're scrounging to find scraps of a decent sell, or you have to sell your fuel points to go with the gift card to even get close to break even. It's crazy how much more saturated it's gotten.
Yeah, like with anything, when it's too good to be true, the market will normalize itself, and I think that happened. But yeah, those early days of those PayPal digital gifts deals on eBay,
Yeah,
that's back when
five
eBay owned
times.
PayPal. Yeah, so they were great. So you could do that and you would get 5x. Sometimes PayPal digital gifts would offer stuff off eBay, just sell the gift cards directly, and they wouldn't have limits like you would. And you could just sometimes do 30, 40, 50, 60 of a gift card before it would crap out on you. And yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them were coding 5x with Chase Inc. And then you were getting eBay bucks and portal rewards. And oh yeah, a lot of times Target. That was a lot of what I wrote about early in the days of Miles to Memories was those deals because they were so good and it was like so bottom feeding. I don't know. It was so easy to do that stuff. Maybe not offloading the gift cards was a little bit of a thing, but as far as like
Yeah.
seeing the math on it, like you were so clearly making money so easily and generating points. It was such an easy play and it didn't have like a huge commitment to it.
Yeah, I think my favorite play of all time was eBay would sell a Target gift card for 10% off. So you'd buy that, get your portal rewards, get your eBay bucks, and then you turn around and use that Target gift card to buy an eBay gift card on Target. If you had a red card, you got 5% off even when you're using the gift card. So you baked in that 10% that you got buying the gift card, then another 5% off with your red card. You buy another eBay gift card. You turn around, use that eBay gift card to buy another Target gift card, and you just do an endless loop, basically with the same money, just churning over and over and baking in more and more return. I mean, one Christmas, I think what's the cap on eBay bucks? I haven't even been on eBay in like 5 years, but I think the cap was like $500 or something like that in a quarter or a year or something. But I had $500 and I was like, all right, kids, pick your Christmas gifts off of eBay because that's where it's coming from. We're blowing all these eBay bucks. It was crazy.
Yeah, I had maxed that out too. I think yeah, 500 sounds about right. It was a nutty time, and yeah, there was a lot of like interesting plays back in the day. And I think people should just be aware of that. There's a lot of intricate stuff that people are doing, and it gets complicated, and that's a decision you have to make whether you want to participate in that, and that's a whole other story. But when there's like these low hanging fruit deals, if they make sense to you, and like in your mind you're like, I got to do that, and it doesn't take a lot of time, do them because they're not going to last forever. I remember Target Red Card, how easy was that? You could walk in and swipe the card and load it with a credit card. Things like that, that lasted a lot longer than we thought it would. But when you see stuff like that, that's kind of easy and it kind of just makes sense in your brain and you're like, that seems too good to be true. It's not going to last. I will tell you that. It won't. So just do it.
Yeah, the good days of Redbird. Yeah, that's what the kids on the street called it. Yeah, that was insane. And then it was switched to where you couldn't load with a credit card; you had to load with a gift card, but that was fine, and all those type of things. And it was so easy to do. It was kind of you think back like, whoa, why didn't? And those are the regrets I have. Why didn't I do more of it or whatever? Like you thought, oh, it might last a bit. I don't want to get like too crazy, but some of these things, if it's that simple and that straightforward, just go for it and get into it. But yeah, you always have to be cautious of the risk and everything. I don't think there was much risk with the red card type of thing, but we've talked about all those type of plays throughout the years, and they dry up. Sometimes they go away, and then they come back, and then they go away again. But it just gives you ideas of things to probe, things to check, all that type of stuff. I mean, there's always something new out there with fintechs and everything else. There's always something popping up that nobody's thought to try. And then when they do, they're like, "Oh crap! Why didn't we notice this?"
One of the questions we talked on the survey with David Okem last week, and we didn't cover this one, but it was people saying sort of the sky is falling, things used to be better in the hobby, everything's dried up. And a lot of people do believe that. And as you and I know, we both have private groups. We both talked to a lot of people in this hobby, there's so many opportunities. I'll just put it that way. People are earning points in so many different ways. And, some of these easier things that took almost no effort have dried up. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to earn miles and points these days.
Well, even if you look at just, the welcome offers and the earning rates, I mean, think how excited people got for a $50,000 sign up bonus back in the day. Like it was huge. 25K was kind of like the cap for airlines and stuff. Sapphire Preferred rolled out 50K. People lost their mind. And remember, like 2 times restaurant and dining was like unheard of. Sapphire, oh, the greatest card ever made. It's got 2 times restaurant and dining. Like, so yes, there's been devaluations. Programs have brought it down, but now we're earning 4, 5, 6x on purchases. Bonuses are, we've seen 300,000 point bonuses. Those two things are heavily outpacing any of the devaluations we've had. You can't have both. So just have to understand that, yeah, they devalued, this award chart by 25%, but you're earning at 100 to 200% more than you ever were before. So you're definitely coming out ahead. Even if you're just going for cards for sign up bonuses and maximizing your earning on everyday spend, you're in a much better position than you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, the sky isn't falling. It's not all, life changes. Everything in life has changed, Go to the grocery store. It's like twice as much as it was a few years ago. So, yeah, life is different.
That means
but
twice as many points, Shawn. They're giving it to us.
Exactly. And multipliers are better. I mean, always look on the bright side. The glass is half full. Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, that sickness where you get like a big medical bill and stuff, and you're like, oh, at least I'm going to get a good bonus out of it. Like I think that's a sickness we all have. It's stupid.
Yeah, I had to do a car repair on the Tesla a few months ago. I don't even want to say how much it ended up costing. It was a big dispute. It was terrible. The whole thing was bad, but at the end of the day, at least I was able to get 175,000 membership rewards through a business gold sign up that I will cash into dollars and directly offset the cost of that thing. So, and that's $1,750, actually a little bit more than that with Schwab. So, yeah, I mean, it's a real, it's a real thing there. I don't know. That Tesla thing pissed me off.
That plays into like, I talk to my family who isn't into miles and points and stuff. And I'm like, everything I do in my life is at a discount, essentially. Like whatever we do, we go out to eat, it's at a discount. You want to go see this show or whatever, I'm going to try to figure a way to use miles and points to get it at a discount. We did the VIP Universal trip. That was at I wiped it off with points. So that's at a discount. Like anything you do, if you have a big cost, like let's say you're putting a roof on your home, you can sign up for a couple of different cards. You can knock 20% off of that, off of that cost. So everything you do in life should be at a discount if you are really into miles and points is my theory.
Yeah, and then you can go different levels of that. Like, for example, my trip to Orlando, I used Delta Vacation Miles 8 years ago to do that, but at 2 cents each. So it was like $3,500. So let's say it was 175,000 membership rewards. That's a 50.
It's only like $1,000 in today dollars compared to 8 years ago. You know that, right?
Yeah. There you go. So I lost money for sure. I mean, truthfully, hotels have gone up and everything else. Yeah. But I mean, the point is that I paid, even if you take the cash value of the membership rewards that transferred to Delta, which then redeemed that, I paid 50% of what the cash cost is. And if you don't want to factor in to think that I could have cashed those points out, I didn't pay anything. But either way, it's a discount. And this is the truth about life. And you and I have had rewards. You talked about eBay rewards, all of the electronics we bought ourselves, our families, from monitors, all the Dell stuff to, I mean, we have just, you end up, it's not just travel. You end up with this affecting every part of your life, and you end up with cool stuff. My barbecue at my house, I got for free because of rewards. My daughter's bed, her bed, she still has this beautiful fully wood twin bed that I bought at Toys R Us online because they didn't have it in the store. But back when they had Babies R Us, but it's this beautiful piece of furniture that I got 100% with Toys R Us rewards through buying and reselling and stuff. RIP Toys R Us. So yeah, it does affect every part of your life.
That makes me think of I was just talking to somebody the other day and they're like, oh, you should write about this. Like it'll do really well. Like, think of all the views and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's hard to predict what's going to do well. There's tons of things that we thought would do really well that doesn't do well, or things that we thought like, why are we writing this? But it ends up doing well. And one of the things I mentioned was when the Toys R Us card was getting transitioned into the Synchrony 2% card or whatever. I think that was like the most read article on the site for the year, and I was like, this is the stupidest thing. Why are we writing about this? And then it ended up being the most read thing because just because Google featured it or whatever, people were searching it. What's going to happen to my Toys R Us card? Which I didn't even think there'd be that many people that had a Toys R Us card, but I guess it was a thing. And funny enough that you say Toys R Us.
I spent a lot of time in Toys R Us at the end, at the end of Toys R Us. I know it's coming back in a different form and all of that, but I was never a Toys R Us kid. Like I don't know where we got my toys when I was a kid, like KB Toys. I think we went to a lot, but we never went to Toys R Us a lot. So I never had this like nostalgia for Toys R Us. But when I started doing reselling, and these were the last few years that Toys R Us was around, and I would get hot toys there, and I shopped a lot at the Toys R Us's here in Las Vegas. And I kind of have this like sentimental thing for them because I sort of experienced Toys R Us at the end, all the way through when it went away. I had the credit card because of the rewards. There were some great rewards plays with them, and some of the rebates with the credit cards and some of the certificates you would get. And like I did really well with Toys R Us. So I loved it for that reason. But yeah, I still have that 2% card. I haven't canceled it. I haven't used it in a long time, but that's
It's like,
terrible.
what's that, the Sears Shop Your Way rewards card or whatever that people are obsessed with because you get all these like weird spending bonuses and stuff, like spend 10x at dining or grocery or whatever, and people like that because they're technically thank you points and everything along those way. When Sears used to be like one of the biggest retailers in the world, now whatever, but they still have a card. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I still have that card too, but it's my wife's oldest card. I've talked about that before. She had that since before I met her, and then we just decided to always keep it, her Sears card. And it started out, I think, as just a regular Sears card back in the day, and then all the different versions, but it has grown into basically the thank you point version, because some people still have ones that only do shop your way, I think. But ours does thank you points, and we always get these targeted versions of it, and like, spend this and get that 5x, 10x. I think I've gotten 15x offers on that card. I don't know who's paying for all that, because how could Sears have any money for marketing? So I guess it's City, but yeah, I mean, Sears still is around. That's crazy. That's another program, Shop Your Way, that we were into all the time, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I was reselling a lot from Sears, and they're gone too. And yeah, another one bites the dust.
Yeah, wasn't Shop Your Way like a Amex partner for a while, and they would have like promos or something? I remember
City.
for some reason it was City. What was the
Yeah,
Amex
City.
one? What one could you use in Macy's? Because I remember like you could transfer points to this, and there was a bonus and stuff, and then you could use it to shop at Macy's. So like
Yeah,
one
plenty.
Christmas I
Amex plenty. Plenty
okay,
points.
there we go. There
Yeah.
we go. Yeah, like those were the days you could turn them into that. And then I was like, all right, Kirsten, for your birthday this year, let's go to Macy's and you pick out whatever you want. I'm going to pay for it by, transferring my membership rewards with this bonus over here and all of that. So it's just funny, like things come and go. But there's, unique places outside of travel that you can do these for. And a dollar saved on that stuff is a dollar you could use for travel elsewhere or whatever it be. But there's so much opportunity out there if you just think outside the box. Like so many people are focused on, I got to use this on hotels and flights, when you can really, maybe you use it for something else and you use that money to pay for a hotel that isn't a chain hotel, type of thing, like in an area that you wouldn't go otherwise. I don't know. There's always opportunity there.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of expanding the way you think and then allowing other opportunities to do it. And I've said this before, pursue the deals that make sense to you. There's just sometimes you see a deal and it all clicks in your brain and you're like, that makes sense. And then there's other times that deals, everybody's telling you how great this deal is and why you should do it, and it just doesn't click. And then there's times I've pursued stuff like that. I end up dropping the ball or I'm just not into it. So I try to, stick to those things. But if something really clicks, you should absolutely do it. And yeah, every year I've talked to how my wife does CVS, Walgreens rewards, and gets all these. She enjoys it, doesn't spend more than, 10, 15, I don't know, a few minutes a week on it, gets free toothpaste and, all the sort of toiletry stuff that you would get. We don't pay for that because she decides to do that and she likes it. So it's not a tedious task for her to do it. It's a simple thing, saving a few bucks. She does it. It all works. And that's the kind of stuff that you should find, whether it's travel or elsewhere.
Yeah, funny enough, like I used to go to CVS a lot. I would get 10% off CVS gift cards on eBay. Then we would go shopping. And if you're buying something from CVS on sale, like even if it's like cereal or whatever, most of their stuff's overpriced, but you can do it with their extra rewards and all that stuff. I used to do it with the kids, so much so that my son, as soon as we would walk in the store, would run over to like where the car section was that they would sell all the toy cars, and he would just hang out there while I peruse. And now I haven't been in a CVS for like 3 years besides picking up medication. So It's funny how things ebb and flow. Like something makes sense for you now, doesn't in the future, or you're like, all right, that's not worth my time anymore when it used to be. So don't stick with something just because you've always done it. Reevaluate every year or so what's worth your time, what's not.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be doing CVS. I'll put it that way. Not my cup of tea, but it works for her and it adds
Yeah.
to the overall thing. And there's plenty that I do that she thinks is crazy, and all of that is good. But we did want to close out with Hyatt category 1 through 4. You have an article coming up that you're doing research on now, so it's in your head. And we thought we would kind of brainstorm with the best category 1 through 4 Hyatts.
We're recording this on Halloween. It'll probably come out later this evening, hopefully, is what I'm shooting for. I'm like halfway through it, but I've been researching it and I'm focusing on the US properties right now. And then I'll probably do one for international later on Travel on Points. But, I expected it to be like, okay, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. We've seen them devalue all our favorite Cat 4s over the years, seemingly get pulled away each time. My last favorite one was the Thompson in Chicago, by far one of my favorite US hotels. And I booked it for when we're going to the Christmas markets. I booked it right before they bumped it up to category 5 back at the beginning of the year, just to get one more time out of it, with a cert or free night or 15K points or 12K. I think it's off peak actually. So, I'm digging and I ended up finding like 20 pretty good options that I thought. And I was curious to hear like what some of yours are, what you focus on, where you go with them. But there's a couple category 3 ones that I think are worth mentioning because at peak time that goes up to 15K, which is, what we used to maximize them out. And one that I'll put out there that will probably people will be like, what? But the Hyatt Place Kent Narrows in Marina. I don't know. Do you know where Kent Narrows is?
No.
Okay. So it's like kind of like if you're leaving the Baltimore area and you're going to the Maryland shore, there's a bridge you go across type of thing, and in the middle is like this little island type of thing. So it's like under the overpass. And it's kind of like a cool little thing. People that live in the area think it sucks, but whatever. So it's a Hyatt Place, but you're 20, 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes from Annapolis, which is one of my favorite small cities. I think I talked about when, we were talking about Salem, how that's my other one on the East Coast that I really enjoy. So you can go there, and then there's like this little ecosystem around it, couple hotels, and then some bars and restaurants right on the water, overlooking, the back of the hotel overlooks the water, have boats out there and everything. The other side, you can hop on charter boats and everything. It's just kind of a unique spot and a good use of Cat 4 cert maybe in the summer when prices are high. But I thought that was kind of a unique one that probably a lot of people overlook.
So a Hyatt Place under an overpass. Gotcha.
Exactly. Hard hitting stuff. Some other ones that I'm sure people think about: Cat 3, Grand Hyatt, San Antonio, Riverwalk. There's also the Hyatt Regency, but I talked to our friend Veronica that said that Grand Hyatt's her favorite of the two. So you actually have those two options if you're in San Antonio, which is a great city, of course. And then Grand Hyatt, Tampa Bay. I believe you stay there? I feel like
Yeah, I have. I mean, the rooms have needed a renovation 15 years ago, and I don't think they got them, but the sunset from that place is just incredible. We had the presidential suite there on one stay, actually, which was cool.
Pink is up. Pink is up, Shawn.
Yeah. I like that property. Yeah, super unique.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you're near Tampa, but you're kind of away from Tampa. Like another one that's kind of like under an overpass.
It's right next to the airport, too. It really is an airport hotel. It's not attached to the airport, but it is 5 minutes from the airport, but right on the water and right, overlooking the roadway that goes out towards the water, I guess, the ocean, the intercoastal, over the intercoastal. It's beautiful.
There we go.
You should go there.
Okay, so we talk about Chicago used to be like, I think, the best use of Cat 4 cert, mainly because there's so many of them, so many options. We lost the Thompson, as I said, and then the Chicago Athletic Association Hotel, which was a favorite among many. And even though
that place is so cool, Mark, I want to just stop. I haven't stayed there, but I did the tour when I did the Hyatt thing where I visited Hyatt headquarters last year. That hotel had been on my list because it looked super unique. I had seen it for years. It was a great value when it opened. Never ended up staying there. And then when I did that tour last year, I was kicking myself in the butt. It is such a unique, cool property. People should check it out. It's, still a good value. Did it start as a category 2 or maybe a 3 back in the day? I don't know.
Maybe a 3.
It's a 5 now.
I think
right?
a lot of
it's a 5.
Yeah, it's a 5. I think a lot of them were like 3 for a bit. So there still are a couple category 4s in Chicago. I think the best if you want to be like in the middle of it all is the Hyatt Centric on Magnificent Mile. So you're right in the tourist corridor. If you like being out by like the Thompson area, as my buddy Ryan calls it, the Viagra Triangle, where all the old guys go to pick up young girls, uh, where like Gibson's and all the steakhouses and everything are. It's really cool. It's probably my favorite area of Chicago. There's the Ambassador Chicago, which is probably like an 8-10 minute walk north of there, a little bit away from everything. So if you want to, hit the sights of Chicago, but get away from the hustle bustle, be more in where people live and stuff, I think that's a good option. I haven't stayed at Ambassador Chicago, but it looks kind of cool inside.
Yeah, the Hyatt Regency Chicago, is that still a category four? I mean, it's
I'm not
really
sure
not
the one
much
on
of a
right on the
hotel.
river. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
it's
sure.
right on the river, good location, but I believe it's like the second biggest Hyatt in the world. It used to be before Baja Mar. Maybe there's another one that's open that's bigger, but it's a huge hotel, so there's a lot of availability there. But I found it to be like one of the most
Yeah, I
sort
don't
of
like it.
blah Hyatt Regency experiences I've ever had. Like totally not good, not bad, just I don't know. So like yeah, I
The
would
only
go elsewhere.
Okay. The only thing I like about that place, we stayed there when I was like 20 with my parents, and we're sitting at, I don't know if it's still there, but it's called the Big Bar, and it overlooked the river, which was kind of a cool bar, and out like big drinks, all this stuff. And I was 20, but I was like, you know what? I'm sitting here with my dad. I'm gonna just kind of throw it out there. I'm in college, drinking in college already, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna order a drink and see. And they served me, so always have a special place in my heart because of that. But so I know, didn't the Park Hyatt in DC used to be a Cat 4, right? I know that was like a favorite of yours.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, when I stayed there, when we were in that conference, you stayed somewhere else, but you had the breakfast with me at the tavern there, which was famous for that. I think it was a category four. Yeah, the rooms there were dated as well. I liked
Yeah,
the breakfast. I thought the suite was a little bit run down when I was there, but the
super
location's
rundown.
super interesting because it's in that where all the embassies are and stuff near Georgetown. It's not in the tourist area, so you get a lot of fancy people around there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I'd say like if you're missing that fix, and everybody loved going, what was it, the Blue Duck Tavern or whatever for breakfast because it was a Michelin star restaurant at one point. So you got to eat like in a Michelin star level restaurant for free for breakfast, which was cool. But the Thompson DC, one of the newer hotels in DC, is a Cat 4 and probably the best Cat 4. I think everything else that's a Cat 4 in DC now is a Hyatt Place, Hyatt House, the Grand Hyatt. That used to be like right on the mall and everything, where it was a good tourist place, went up to a Cat 4, 5. So this one, it's not in the greatest area, like it's a bit away from everything, but I think it's if you're looking for like a fancy, nice high end stay while you're visiting DC, I think the Thompson is great. And Thompson's probably my favorite Hyatt brand. I think Conrad and Thompson are my two favorite brands across all the hotels. Just the design speaks to me, all that stuff. So I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, love me the new Thompsons. They're great, and totally agree. The Grand Hyatt in DC is nothing special, so I haven't done the Thompson, but I certainly would do that if it's cheaper, even if I have to get a little bit, move around a little bit more, because I was not impressed with the Grand Hyatt there. So I guess we're running a little long. Any other key ones? I know I found like
Yeah,
ones like the Hyatt Regency Seattle, which is really cool. I stayed there a few years ago.
the Belleville
Beautiful
one or
hotel.
Bellevue, is that it?
No, actually, just the regular Hyatt Regency. Is
Okay.
that not for anymore?
I don't know. I found the Bellevue one. Which Seattle used to have. What was it, like the Olive or whatever was a Cat 4. But okay, so the one that I think is the most interesting is called the Wild Birch Hotel. I don't know that people have really heard about this. It's in Anchorage, Alaska. In the past, it's only been Hyatt Place or Hyatt House in Anchorage. This is going to be opening in early 2025. Right now, it's a Cat 4. Book it. I don't think it's going to stay there. I don't think it makes it through the next, when is that, like February or March that they bring out the new charts. So I'd book it now. I don't think it'll be. And then the other one, I have a list of over 20 to check out on the site. So when the article goes up, check it out. But the other one was the Hyatt Regency Tamaya, which I know we both loved.
Yeah, I just passed by it, but it looked great, and I know you enjoyed it. And it just a
Oh, I
reminder
thought
there
you had
is a
stayed
lot
there
of
for some reason.
no, just went to the Walmart next door, but there there is a lot of opportunities still. It sucks that there's a lot of properties that used to be on these lists that are
Yeah.
gone. The Grand Hyatt Manchester and San Diego is a great example. I think that used to be a category three forever, then went up to four, now is a five. A lot of these ones are at five, but still good opportunities, especially If you're looking to use the certs are easier to use than ever because you can transfer them. I like that I can just transfer my wife's cert to me and then just use it from my account. So a lot of good stuff with Hyatt. Maybe we should on a future show cover some of the properties they have upcoming, like the Anchorage one, because I think they have quite a few interesting properties coming in the next couple years in their portfolio. And we know everybody loves Hyatt in the Miles and Points hobby, so all Hyatt all the time.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great one. And we just saw they're coming out with or they're created a new partnership with an all-inclusive place, which is adding like 23, 24 hotels. And on 20-minute travel, we talked about the Margaritaville one coming over. So we'll have to see. All-inclusives, I think, lost a bit of the luster with how much they price them now compared to what they were. But maybe some of the new ones will be lower end. But one more throw out there: Grand Hyatt Denver. I know we both stayed there. Great hotel.
We have both stayed there. I hosted 2 meetups there. The first MTM Diamond meetup we hosted there, and then I brought MTM Diamond back there last year. The Grand Hyatt in San Antonio, we're doing a meetup. The Diamond Group's doing a meetup there next year too, because I've heard so many great things about it on the Riverwalk. So many opportunities. But I do love the Grand Hyatt Denver. It has a very special place in my heart. Last time I stayed there last year, I didn't even get a suite upgrade, but I've had the presidential suite there before. I've had other suites there before. They used to have an amazing club lounge that is not reopened, and it won't reopen, which sucks. And it's not, it's on the far end of downtown, I would say, in Denver, from like where the baseball stadium is and a lot of the breweries and stuff. But I still like that area. It's super easy to get around. So I think I've stayed there 4 times now. Love the Grand Hyatt Denver.
Hyatt needs to get rid of the suite access awards. Like, they're worthless. Nobody has, or not suite, lounge access awards. They're worthless. Nobody has them, or at least make it so that you can use it for breakfast then. This is stupid.
So we'll throw a link to Mark's article in the description. I think it should be out by the time this show goes live. And let us know what your favorite category 1 through 4 Hyatts are that you're using your certs on now, whether it be in the US or eventually international. I'm sure we'll talk about international if you do that version of the article, so we can do that because there's some good stuff there. So let us know in the comments, what were your favorite plays? What are you doing for the fourth quarter to juice up your earnings? What are you getting ready for now as we are going into November? Leave a comment on all that. No 20-minute travel this week, just this show. We'll be back next week with both 20-minute travel and another MTM travel. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
All things Orlando next week.
Yes, and Joe is coming to join us to talk about both of our Orlando trips. So much fun. Gonna be crazy.
Yes. Conrad, baby. Best ever.